It's been a long time since I actually have to break out the Necron Codex to read up on some rules. Welcome back, my 40k fanatics out there. I'm DJ here with Tim's Nation, and today I'm going to bring you my list preview for the army that I plan on playing against Lane tonight. Lane, who's bringing his Custodes? That's right. If any of you guys watched in the last battle report, my Grey Knights, which, I'll be honest with you, that was a list that I was not expecting to win with. Just ran a bunch of vehicles and put out the most broken, beastly, unnerfed model in Warhammer 40k, the Land Raider. And a Land Raider with las cannons. And the Land Raider with las cannons came through in the end and stuck it and took out the Hecaton. But we're not here to talk about Land Raiders, Grey Knights, or the Votann Dwarfs, because tonight, Lane will be bringing his Custodes, which I'm really happy to see. These are beautifully painted models. Lane is a great, great painter. Very fast, too, honestly. And I've been wanting him to bring his Custodes on the channel for a while. So this seemed like the perfect opportunity. Beat him with the Votann with my Grey Knights, push him on the table, but it will not be the Grey Knights facing the Custodes tonight. No. It will not be the silver and gold. Well, that type of silver and gold. It will be my Necrons, who, if any of you have seen my army, it's not really silver either, but there are some silver models, so we'll still have a little bit of silver and gold going on here. All in all, though, carrying on with the idea that 10th edition is coming to, or I'm sorry, 9th edition is coming to an end, and 10th is about to start up soon. There's some crazy stuff that I've always wanted to run. Some silly things, silly list ideas, silly armies. And this was one that I started putting together and went, man, this is actually kind of cool. Some of the abilities I'm able to do, the dynasty I'm taking, and should be interesting. Should be interesting to see how this all plays out and if this actually works a little bit too. It's a cute design. And by the title, you know what we're already going with. Necron Warriors. Let's go, guys. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please do. Turn on that bell for notification and get notified for Lane's video describing his army, as well as the battle report and our post-game wrap-up, as well as all the content that I can bring and try and cover with 10th edition news and going all the way up into and including 10th edition. Trying a bunch of new stuff here on the channel, trying to practice and get better. So one of the reasons we keep doing battle reports right now, even though 9th is almost an afterthought, we are almost ready to start playing 10th edition. We're getting super close. I still want to practice what I'm doing and how I'm putting out content on the channel, and the best way to do it is to keep putting out content on the channel, keep making videos, keep playing games, keep rolling dice. Besides the point, I love this game, so I'm going to play whichever rules and edition I'm able to play. So, with that being said, now, let's talk about this very, very, very interesting Necron list that I'll be bringing tonight. All right, so here is my Necron army, my Necron warrior host, which is actually going to be from the Nephric dynasty. This is a dynasty we don't commonly see on the table because many of the other dynasties have abilities to just kind of shadow this one and make it not as good as some of the other choices competitively. However, with the fact that I have so many Necron warriors and they're all objective secured, thought this was an opportunity to move away from the Necalic or the Custom Dynasty. Necalic obviously being the better of the two choices because you get more from it. But I thought this was an opportunity to move away from that since I have all the objective secured warriors in the world. Now, mind you, some of my warriors are not painted. I purposely brought some non-painted warriors in here to try to divide stuff out so when we're watching the game and when the game's being played, it's a little easier to kind of see and digest what squads are where, what size they are, because over a video it can get kind of complicated and tough. So I'm going to try and see if I can't help that with some of the differences in some of my Necron warriors. All right, so let's get over into this army and this dynasty. So first of all, the Nephric dynasty. So the Nephric dynasty is going to get the command protocol, Sudden Storm, that they are able to use both directives on if it is in effect. So that's going to be the protocol that I choose to be in effect for my army for the entire game. What that's going to give me is +1 to all of my movements, as well as whenever I fall back, whenever I'm completing an action, I can still shoot. So I'm going to play into that a little bit with some of the secondaries, which we'll get to at the end. As far as the actual dynasty itself, I get a 6-up invulnerable save, which would be great for my Necron warriors. And I also get whenever I fall back or move, whenever I move, advance, I can. Let me rephrase that. Whenever I move and choose to advance, I basically automatically get a 6. Now, it also has a caveat that says that basically they just ignore all the terrain, like they just move. They just go an extra 6 inches to their move. And it says that they ignore terrain as if it was not there. So if I'm going through dense, I don't get the -2. However, you cannot shoot no matter what when you do this. So even assault weapons are still not allowed to shoot, or any stratagems that would override. I still think this can be really useful, especially for this list, because I can crash Necron warriors at an objective and move them basically 13 inches, or I'm sorry, 12 inches, because I get +1. And then if a lord or overlord's nearby, then I get the 13 inches. So this army is relatively quick for being a lot of foot troops. And the 6-up invuln will be nice because I have a lot of little guys, so that's going to be great to be able to at least have a chance to save some of them, especially for animation rolls to make sure a couple stay alive. And then the boosted move and being able to do actions with and shoot at the same time will help with all my gauze flares. All right, now what did I take? So for starters, we'll just go right to the big guns. I got 100 Necron warriors. 4 20-man squads of Necron warriors with gauze flares, 2 10-man squads of Necron warriors with the gauze reapers. So the 2 10-mans are going to go into the Ghost Arcs because I have to put something in the Ghost Arc, and I can already feel it. I know, yes, I can put my characters in the Ghost Arcs because they're dedicated transports to be legal. I get that. I won't put Necron warriors in there. I want to be able to move these guys up the field, especially once again with my buff of being able to auto advance 6. This means I could move the Ghost Arcs really, really far because they do get the dynasty traits and get these guys across the field really fast towards the points that I want to be. A lot of things in this army are actually much quicker than it will seem, and we'll get over some of those details into it. But having the 10-man in the Ghost Arc sounds like fun. I've run these guys in the past in Ghost Arcs before I was starting to stream, before I was starting to record videos. And I had a lot of fun with 2 Ghost Arcs and 2 10-mans, able to bounce off each other well. Ghost Arcs are super resilient. I'm looking for objective control and some fun out of these guys tonight. Over to the rest of the Necron warriors. So, in a nutshell, 3 of the 20-mans are going to be deployed on board. The third 20-man is going to be put in strategic reserve. More on that momentarily. All of my warriors have gauze flares. This army I'm starting with 4 command points. I'm only taking 2 relics into this army, no warlord traits. So the 4 command points that I start with will allow me to be able to use some of the really cheap 1 command point strats on the gauze flares to get out of situations, and just in general being very, very cheap to run with the command points, but there's still a lot of little 1 command point things that I'd want to trigger on stuff, with going into their gauze weapons being like 6s to automatically wound, or exploding 6s, things like that. Those are cheap 1 command point strats, but they can tally up on you over time and nickel and dime you to death. So I got enough command points to start off to not be too worried about using those strats here and there, and not in the most not having to math hammer everything out before I use the strat and just go, okay, we're going to do this and see what happens. All right, so that 1 20-man that I said is going to be a strategic is because I am taking a single Night Scythe. Night Scythe has seen absolutely no play. I've never used one of these things at all. I've put them in list, laughed, taken them out. Put them in list, laughed, taken them out. Well, guess what? Today I put them in a list. I'm laughing, but I'm not taking them out. Because any Necrons have a cute little stratagem that allows me to, in the reinforcement step, take a unit that is in strategic reserve and place it anywhere within 3 inches of the model. Now, this does not have to abide by the 9-inch away rule, so this can be as close as I want. So the Night Scythe deep strikes in 9 inches away. since it's a flyer and that's where it needs to start. And then the Necron warriors that I put in strategic can now land within 3 of it, putting them much, much, much closer for a charge. And granted, it is Necron warriors and not the best in combat, but the one thing that Necron warriors bring to the forefront when they charge is that they are objective secured in its 20 bodies. So this is a real easy way for me to be able to hit someone's primary game and shut them down to 4 on that next turn. And losing points on primary can really affect over the course of the game. So that's kind of one of the plays I'm looking at for them, not to mention into the later game, units that are in combat can fall back into the Night Scythe, and the Night Scythe can get them out of there. If the Night Scythe gets hit, gets gunned down, that means that some of my other stuff, like my Ghost Arcs, are not. And if the Night Scythe gets ignored, he can help to move my entire army around the table, being that he does have the transport capacity to be able to pick up any of my warrior squads. Moving on to the other transports, my actual dedicated transports, we have the Ghost Arcs. Ghost Arcs have been something that a lot of people have run. I've run them. I've tried them out. They're great. They really are. Having that inherent transhuman with the quantum shielding is a very powerful effect. They have a lot of guns for more Gauze Flares. Use those Gauze Flare arrays on them. They're big, so they can take up some space both for my opponent and against my opponent. I can use them to block. They're just all around very, very great versatile units. On top of that, they can heal Necron warriors. D3, or for a command point, I can put D6 back into a squad. So, I mean, with me running this many warriors, I couldn't not take the Ghost Arcs. And speaking of things that I couldn't not take, 2 Canoptic Reanimators. Okay, these guys suffer from, I don't think everybody who was working on this codex was talking at the same time. And I think that when they created the reanimation protocol rule, these guys were intended to be able to boost the reanimation protocol much lower or higher, depending on how you want to look at it, than it ended up finishing off as. Someone writing the rules said you can't go beyond a 4-up. Someone making these things thought, hey, we're going to give them +1, so we need to make sure these things are not completely indestructible, otherwise everything's going to be broken. And then the game continued on. Looking at things like the Tomb Spiders makes me wonder why these guys couldn't be placed in units. Might have given them a little more viability there. May not have. They're still kind of weak with the T5, and I think only 6 wounds. It's like 5 or 6 wounds. And they're not characters, nor character protected. So these guys are fragile. The reanimation beam requires that they have line of sight of the unit that they're reanimating, and they cannot turn that on until the command phase of my turn. Now, there is a stratagem for 2 command points, and that's another reason I'm so high in command points, is because if I do not go first, I want to make sure that I have enough to do this. But I can do 2 command points and immediately target a unit with the reanimation beam to be able to give them +1 to the reanimation protocols. Necron warriors reanimating on 5s, rerolling 1s normally, would now be on 4s, rerolling 1s. With that 6-up invuln, man, that's some tough warriors. We'll see how these guys do. Again, they are very fragile, so they can get gunned down pretty easily. That's why I took 2 of them. This way I can kind of play off my corners and try and hide these guys, but still be able to move my warriors up the field. While I can keep 1 warrior back in a rune that is targetable from the reanimator and keep the reanimator hidden, that doesn't allow me a lot of push up the field, which is going to make which I don't want to stay completely held back. As I start to move, the reanimators are going to be able to be seen, and they're very easy to pick off, especially with Custodes and Custodian weapons. These guys are going to be pretty easy picking, so it's going to be a lot of finesse on how I'm able to manage with these guys. All right, over into my characters. Well, first, I wanted to make sure that, keeping with the theme of resurrecting warriors and stuff like that, so I wanted to make sure I had res orbs. So I took 2. I took a Lord and an Overlord. Now, the Overlord, who is the guy equipped with a scythe, he has, which he's actually going to have a Staff of Light, but he has the scythe on his model. His resurrection orb is going to be the Orb of Eternity, so that he basically can give them the reanimation beam effect right there on the spot and try and res an entire squad right there on the rip. Those who don't know, the res orb is target a unit in your command phase and immediately make a reanimation roll for every dead model in that unit. But since it's the relic orb, I get +1. So I'd be, again, resurrecting warriors on a 4-up, re-rolling ones. But now I don't have to have the reanimation beam on that unit. The Lord has a regular resurrection orb. So his target might want the reanimation beam from the canoptic reanimators targeting the unit he's about to hit. Nicely enough, they both are in the command phase, so I could stack that effect neatly. The Lord, however, has the Veil of Darkness. The way I see things, the Overlord can give off my will be done to a unit. The Lord can then veil the unit to another spot. He still has a resurrection orb, and he gives them reroll ones to hit. So that's a pretty effective unit that I can get upfield. Not to mention with the Gauze Flares being 24-inch range, I don't have to drop right into someone's face. I can just get into a good position. Last but certainly not least, and the characters saw it, is my 2 Technomancers. Those who are fans of the channel might notice that these are the models I typically use at Chronomancer. These are my converted Cryptechs. And depending on what army I'm playing, depending on the style I'm playing, these guys might end up in every list because of the way I've designed them. This list, I am running 2 Technomancers that both have Canoptic Cloaks. I want to be able to keep up with everything and be able to move around the table if warriors get popped. So, because these guys have Canoptic Cloaks, why not go with the ghostly looking guys? So the ghostly looking Technomancers are just, they're basic as is with the Canoptic Cloak to float around and be able to put D3 warriors back into a squad. Last little piece is because I had some points left over, I did take 2 Crypt Thralls to protect the guys. They can get a lot of boosts if you get really close to if you get close to them and they have a Cryptech near them, they get some really cool boosts and stats. They might turn into late game action monkeys where I need to throw a banner back up on an objective that gets knocked down or something like that. But for the most part, they were just the 40 extra points I had that, well, nothing really else I could spend it on. So why not take some Crypt Thralls? I got these guys ready and they're finished, so why not? They're kind of cool looking models. They are cool looking models, so we'll see what they do. They have a really cool little eye plasma beam. We'll see if that gun comes into effect. So with this list, my intent is going to be to play Treasure of Aeons, Ancient Machineries, as well as Raising Banners. Treasure and Ancient Machineries are kind of the obvious choice. I have a lot of objectives secured. They both score very high. And I have a lot of speed to be able to push and score treasures super early. Also getting Ancient Machineries on some crazy objectives when I'm able to threaten them early. The reason I'm going for banners is because I look through the rest. I don't feel comfortable with any of the movement ones, any of the board control ones. Typically, especially knowing I'm playing Custodes, there's not a lot. I don't have a lot of killing potential. So any of the kill secondaries are not really going to help me. So the only one that really, what it comes down to, I guess you could say, is the fact of banners or retrieve battlefield data. And with this army and how big my units are, I don't feel like I'm going to be able to get the quarters to be able to fully get a unit wholly within a quarter to be able to do retrieve battlefield data. So banners sounded like fun. It's kind of unique with this army because of the fact that I can shoot and complete actions. I can get aggressive on a point, go up there, shoot, and do all what I want to do while putting up a banner and really make my opponent have to kind of run around and constantly try and take down banners. Because if they don't and they make it to a command phase, suddenly I score 4 points in a command phase because there's 4 banners up. Now, Ancient Machineries is an action that's completed as well. So that's one thing I'll have to keep in mind with how I position things and where I put guys. But I'm not overly concerned with it. I have a lot of units. I can hit an objective twice and do both actions. And Ancient Machineries, I only do it once per per objective marker outside of my zone. So I don't think it'll be a problem, but we'll see how this goes with the game and when we get over to it. All right, so there's my list. That is my Necron mob for tonight, which literally it is a giant mob of guys. Originally, this list concept, what I wanted to do was I wanted to do something kind of fun on the channel and just be interactive with everybody on here and put something out there that we could all like just throw things in the comments section and make a guess, and especially with the Necron Warriors and reanimating before we go into 10th edition. With how the reanimation rule works now. So what I wanted to do was just build a Necron Warrior reanimating army. When I started looking at this thing and putting it together and then looking at the Nephilim dynasty and then looking at secondaries, I went, okay, this is going to be something that's really tough to pilot, but I almost feel like this could work in a more competitive scenario. Just this is going to be the movement is going to need to be precise. Guys need to be where they need to be. Blocks need to happen where they need to happen. I don't have the damage output, so I can't really remove things. I got to be aggressive, and but be aggressive at objectives, not at my opponent's army. So, especially going into Custodes, it's going to be really hard for me to peel some guys off. I could probably shoot an entire army against like a unit of Custodes, whatever they may be, and maybe kill 2 guys at most. I mean, they're tough. They're really tough. So, yeah, that's basically the list. The only thing that's left to leave is what I want to see everyone else kind of get interactive with this. In the comments section, I want you guys to leave how many warriors do you think I will resurrect against the Custodes today? And it's just give us kind of just a ballpark. What do you think? How many of these? So we start with 100. I have 2 Ghost Arcs, 2 Technomancers, 2 Resurrection Orbs. So by the end of the game, how many Necron Warriors do I resurrect? Guys, leave your guesses in the comments section down below. We'll have Lane's video coming out shortly to show his Custodes. They're magnificent looking models, even though they're gold. And there's a lot of, I have some, you check over in the battle reports. I got some sour feelings about Custodes. Ever since they came into this game, I've had some sour feelings about them, especially being a Grey Knight player. And I think a lot of Grey Knight players out there can understand. It's like, man, when they came out, there's a lot of stuff they did with them that it's like, why didn't you just do that with Grey Knights? Minus the jet bikes, the Loris Custodes. Okay, all right, I'm done. Got to save it for the battle report. We'll give you a quick little rant in there for that. But all in all, Necron Warriors, baby. Let's bring it. Guys, thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you again soon.